Last night, I streamed my favorite mobile game for 5 hours straight. It's one of the biggest mobile games in the world, a consistent competitor against the likes of Genshin Impact and Fate Grand Order for the mobile game with the most revenue. This mobile game has an anime adaptation that has gone on for 3 seasons and recently dropped a movie just last month, and practically nobody in the West knows anything about it. The game I'm talking about is Musume, which directly translates to horse daughter. Now, I know how weird that sounds, but stay with me for a bit. Musume is Cygames' mobile game, and since its launch in February of 2021, it has been Cygames' largest mobile game by a mile. Cygames is a big video game company in Japan. You likely know them for their products that were more successful overseas, like Grand Blue Fantasy Relink and the whole Grand Blue Fantasy IP. Or you may also know them for their failures in the West, like with Princess Connect Redive. Though, to be fair, that was probably more of a Crunchyroll thing, but I'm not going to get too deep into that. If you're a longtime weeb, you may even know them as the producers of the Idolmaster Cinderella Girls Starlight stage. I myself have a history with Cygames, having worked with them in the past with promoting Shadowverse back in 2016. What I'm getting at here is that Cygames and their products are known in the West to varying degrees, but if you take a look at this graph over here, you would see that out of all of their mobile games, Musume makes up for 72% of their mobile game revenue share ever since its launch. Now, I think the question you should be asking is why? How does a game named Horse Daughters earn more money than all of their other mobile games combined? It can't simply be because it's Japan. It doesn't explain why the other mobile games do so poorly in comparison, as these are all Japanese products with a majority Japanese demographic in mind. To understand why Musume does so well, there are a lot of things you can point to. Oh, the character designs are cute. Their gimmick of every horse girl representing a legendary horse racer is novel. The Japanese are just super into idol culture and cute girls doing cute things. While all of these things are true, I think the answer is a lot more simpler than that. The reason why Musume, the mobile game, does well is simply because Musume, the mobile game, is a good game. I personally got into Musume after learning about it from watching some of my favorite VTubers play it. The most silly clip that I remember is watching Amane Kanata of Hololive JP physically leave her stream in order to buy gift cards from the convenience store below her apartment so that she can roll for more gacha.
A few moments later.
So these clips always stood out to me as being ridiculous. I wanted to understand why they were so into this game. Was it actually good, or were they only farming clips? As I watched more of the game, I got more and more intrigued about the concept of the game as a whole. Now, I never really mentioned why I'm doing this. Why are we talking about a game that released in 2021? The reason why is because Musume is getting a global launch, a global release. It's going to be finally in English. It's one of my most favorite mobile games that I've ever played, and I want to go ahead and try and show you, like, hey, this is a pretty good game. Musume is a game about training horse girls so that they can win horse races, and it's unlike anything in the modern gaming landscape in the West, not just in concept, but also in gameplay. The whole idea behind the game is that you have absolutely no control over the horse girl while she's racing. Everything depends on how well you train your horse girl throughout their career. You might be thinking then that this game is most similar to Pokemon, and you'd be wrong. You cannot choose when the horse girls activate their skills. There is no cheer button that gives them a boost in speed, and no, to the freaks out there, There are no jockeys and you cannot whip the horse girls. Everything depends on how you direct the horse girl to train, which improves their stats. Whether she needs to run the track to improve her speed, swim to improve her stamina, weightlift to increase her strength, or study to improve her intelligence. Throughout the months that they train, their stamina will regularly drain, and when a horse girl has low stamina, it introduces failure rates to these training sessions, which can result in the horse girl getting seriously injured or hurt. A good trainer would assess these failure rates and know when it is time to tell their horse girl to rest, and know when it is time to try and push them to their limits. We took 2 risky training sessions before in order to make a truly great horse girl. And now we gotta do it again. Let's go. I told you she could do it. Oh my god, UG? I've never seen that. Throughout the campaign, random events occur which prompt dialogue scenes that produce different effects depending on which dialogue option you pick, kinda like a dating sim. Now, I'm not gonna get super deep into the details of gameplay, but trust me when I say that the strategy and numbers run way deeper than you'd think. All the while, it's an extremely accessible game since it only involves choosing from a selection of options from a menu. So you can see how this game appeals to a wide audience. You have the hardcore sweats out there who are calculating statistical probabilities and assessing risk and trying to push their horse girl to their absolute limits. And at the same time, because it's so accessible, because all you're really doing is choosing options from a menu, the game is really easy to play for casual fans. This game mode of training your horse girl is the main game mode. It's the one that drains your mobile gacha game stamina, and how it's structured is like a campaign. You train a horse girl, usually for a span of 3 years, and at the end of that 3-year campaign is a big tournament that you have to win. When you finish the campaign, that horse girl, with all the training she's done, all the skills she's acquired, and all of her accomplishments and deeds is put into a Hall of Fame record. This record is then able to be used and be assigned as a parent to another horse girl. Yes, that means there is horse breeding, but only in a sense. In the world of Musume, there are only horse girls and no horse boys or men, and the girls do not breed with each other or do anything with the trainer. Instead, you pick 2 horse girl Hall of Fame records to act as parents to a horse girl you're going to train. The parents pass down skills, stats, and traits to the trainee, having a direct impact on how well the trainee horse girl will perform throughout her career. And if you are able to digest all of that information whilst giving the game an immense amount of credit, then you'd come to realize that this basically makes the game a roguelite. The game is all about raising the best versions of these unique horse girl characters. All the horse girls, by the way, they are based off actual horse racing legends. And a lot of these legendary horse racers actually have some really sad and funny stories that are carried by these horse girl characters. That's kind of why this game also has a very deep appeal, in that the authenticity of how accurately these horse girls portray those stories and how well that narrative is carried by the horse girls is why this game is also successful. But I really do think that this game is carried by the gameplay and the level of quality itself. Every campaign is a run that has many random events thrown in at you that you have to adapt to on the fly, and the results of these runs directly influence how your next runs will go. Your horse girls will continually improve the more runs you do, because you are essentially building a lineage of horse girls to pass the best attributes into the next generation. This creates a larger picture and a super involved metagame around the main game of raising the horse girls themselves. It's an incredibly unique game down to almost every detail. The closest game I can say that is the most similar to it is Monster Rancher and Digimon World, which before writing this I didn't even know they were still making. What both of these games have in common is your lack of control over the main situation. In Monster Rancher and Digimon, you're raising monsters to do battle. In Uma Musume, you are raising horse girls to horse race. Instead, the focus is placed on how you coach and train your characters, and not what battle options or skills you pick to execute then and there. And to me, there's a really fun and cool level of immersion in that. In Pokemon, the main idea behind its core concept revolves around the Pokemon and its trainer, but gameplay-wise, you will always take direct control over the active Pokemon. There's no input from the Pokemon themselves. They do not act independently or as a separate entity, but more like an extension of you. Whereas in games like Musume, you have your role as a trainer, but it's up to the horse girls themselves to actually do what you train them to do. This creates a sense of connection and a level of immersion with these characters. Another favorite game mode I had growing up, and that is similar to this that I just remembered, is Sonic Adventure's Chow Garden. You have no way to control your Chow as they race or do various competitions, but you feel a sense of accomplishment and pride watching them take victory thanks to the training you instilled in them nonetheless. Musume took an extremely obscure gameplay loop and paired it with an extremely weird concept, and the result of it is an incredibly beloved and unique game. No one can even try to compete with Musume because they wouldn't even know how to start. You can hardly get the same experience playing anything else, and truly nothing out there that is even remotely similar competes with it in levels of quality, and that's why I think it's one of Japan's most successful mobile games out there. One of Musume's biggest selling points, I think, is also the amount of quality put behind the character designs, the animations, the models, and all of the little details. Their gacha rolling animation is wild, the races are intense, you hear the commentators shouting and saying what's going on, and they're directly reacting to what's happening on the screen. And the craziest thing is that there's one huge component to Musume that spotlights this level of quality that I haven't even mentioned. In Musume, not only are your horse girls incredible racers, but they're also idols. In fact, that's the main driving point. In the world of Musume, horse girls that win the horse race are the ones that become the main center idol of a celebratory live concert. Musume somehow manages to shoehorn the concept of Japanese idol culture into its already wacky idea. Whoever wins the race is the center idol, the main visual, the biggest star on the stage. The close runner-ups are regulated to share the stage as the side attractions, the decoration, the supporting cast, highlighting the winner in all of her glory. The rest become simply backup dancers that more or less serve as the foliage on stage. The idea of this is as much cute as it is cruel. Nobody wants to be a backup dancer, and least of all your special horse daughter. So it's up to you to make sure they win the hearts of fans all around the world by making sure they never lose a race. If they lose, then be prepared to have to pick up the pieces of your horse girl's shattered confidence and try to mitigate as much of their depression from having an effect on their training. It all quickly becomes a spiral that you have to do your best to control so that your horse girl doesn't walk herself through the doors of a glue factory herself. Although I have since stopped playing Musume maybe a year and a half ago, I have never deleted it from my phone. I played it a lot over the course of a year and a half, and that's not a small feat. Nothing in that game is in English, and everything is incredibly dense in text. Out of pure love for the game, I did reference guides made by the community, but I really did train myself to memorize dialogue options, recognize Japanese grammar patterns, and be able to read kanji in order to play the game effectively and comfortably. I don't always want to be referencing a guide. And I did it because the game was so different, so out there, but most importantly, really fun. I'm a big fan of card games where you draft and roguelikes like Slay the Spire and Darkest Dungeon. Musume for me is an incredibly fun and immersive roguelike that executes its insane and unique concept to near perfection. Even the aspect of it being pay to win, since it is a gacha game after all, never bothered me. When you make the Hall of Fame Horse Girl records, what you can also do besides setting them as a parent to other trainees is draft them into your PvP team. The game takes the stats and values of all the horse girls in your PvP team and assigns you a grade rank. And this grade rank helps match you against opponents. meaning all of their horse girls on their team, at least all together, are similar to yours in power. I never got trashed by whales because I was never able to make horse girls to compete against the whales, meaning I played mostly against other dolphins like me who spent a little money, or whales that didn't know how to play the game. So PvP never felt bad, but the main gameplay that I really enjoyed and really thought was fun was the main training game mode, because how I saw it was that you can train a horse to do anything and be any type of character if you had the right strategy, the right deck, and the right sort of RNG in place. Musume is going to have a booth very soon at Anime Expo and has announced that it will launch globally. And if there's anything I can tell to the people that go to AX, it's to really check out this game. If you're like me, a weeb who really enjoys roguelikes and is intrigued by the Tamagotchi raising gameplay concept, then this game is super enjoyable and I highly recommend it. One thing that I also want to say too is that this game is pretty free-to-play friendly as far as I remember. The gacha system is for the horse girls, which are basically just different playable characters, and the weapons themselves, or the cards, the support cards that basically have a huge effect on your campaign and your run. These cards, the highest rarity cards, are more often than not better than the max limit break 4-star rarity cards. So the 4-star rarity cards usually are a lot better as long as you are able to max limit break them. And typically the highest rarity cards, there are only a few of them that are worth playing with just one limit break. It is an expensive game, it is a gacha, it is pay to win, and the idea of it is that your horses will be better with a lot less effort if you went out of your way to whale on the game. But rest assured, like, as a game itself, being free to play or being a small dolphin or whatever is actually fun, because it is in its nature a roguelike game. In all honesty, I am a little pessimistic in terms of how well this game will do in the West. The concept is really weird and so far removed from Western culture. But I truly think that Musume is a game that carries itself on pure merit by providing unique and solid gameplay alongside a level of quality and care for the brand that I very rarely find in other IPs. So please check it out. You can actually play the Japanese version right now if you wanted to by making an account with DMM by downloading their client. I did a live stream playing this game and I might do it again, who knows. The game is fun and I'd be really happy if this video manages to convince anyone to give it an earnest shot.